Hello there, welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally. If you want an easy guide to what's going on in the music industry and know about how it all works, then here we are every week looking at the finances of the music industry, whilst also bringing you stories and comments from the pop biz in the last 7 days. He is Stuart Dredge. I am Joe Sparrow. And Stu, by way of introduction, let's start with your big number. This is something that caught your eye this week.
It's 2. That's how many hills I climbed in the Lake District last week. I wasn't doing this show. No. You want a music industry number, right?
Go
They
on
were
then,
big
yeah.
hills. They were big hills. 7 billion euros. There you go. That's a big
Ooh,
number for you.
is big. And what is it?
Well, this is how much less Universal Music Group is worth now than it was at the start of this year. That's based on its market cap, which is its valuation based on its share price. So its share price has fallen by 20% since the beginning of the year. It was worth 35 billion euros in January, and now it's worth just over 28 billion euros. And why this is noteworthy is that many of the other numbers around the company's business, the biggest major label in the world, are going up. So its financials were announced recently. Its revenues are up, publishing revenues are up, streaming revenues are up. But what has happened is that Wall Street, so shareholders, investors, appear to be spooked by the fact that the growth that Universal Music is seeing is not as big as they were expecting, particularly from streaming subscriptions.
Now, this is interesting, isn't it? Now, this is not financial advice, and share prices go up and down all the time, don't they? So this is just a sort of the one thing I always think about when looking at share prices of companies is that it's a snapshot of market sentiment. So this is how people think, how confident they feel at the moment, and of course, in 6 months it might change again. But last week, all these big companies that are listed on the stock exchange released their quarterly reports. So we had all the major labels saying, here's how much money we made, and here's how much our share price, how much return we give per share, and all those things. And it was after Universal announced their quarterly reports that their stock price dropped 25%. Immediately, right? But the weird thing is that all the numbers went up. Like the
Yeah.
growth went up. Then they're growing. They're making loads and loads of money.
It's supposed
Why has this happened?
Well, it's because there are expectations, and sometimes those expectations come from the companies themselves, that we think we'll grow by this much next
Yeah,
quarter, if they don't. Other times they come from the investors, and it can sound quite harsh, like you've grown really well, but because analysts thought you'd grow more, they all dump your shares. But this happened last week with Spotify too. So Spotify was one of those other companies announced as well, wasn't it? And you were covering this in my absence. And
yeah,
I mean, it hit a big milestone, 300 million premium subscribers, which is unthinkable. Like 15 years ago,
yeah,
if you said there will be 300 million people paying for music from one streaming service,
yeah.
its revenues are up 15% year on year, but its share price dropped by nearly 6%. And again, that's about expectations of growth. And is the growth tailing off? Is there going to be a ceiling to subscriptions growth? Is it all slowing down in a way that the companies in the industry, Spotify and UMG, haven't really predicted? And the same with Spotify. Like Spotify's worth a lot more now than it was a couple of years ago. But since the
Yeah.
beginning of this year, it's down 11%. So its market cap is $105.3 billion at the moment. And it was $118.3 billion in the year. So it's dropped, what's that, $13 billion since January. Again, a market of sentiment could go up again
Yeah.
tomorrow.
It's all vibes, really, isn't it? It's sort
It's
of
financial vibes.
the,
But is
the,
it,
the interesting, yeah. The interesting thing I was going to say is that this is all based around we talk a lot about streaming and these huge numbers and money, and we try and boil it down to money going to artists and songwriters at the bottom, right? And from a sort of helicopter perspective, above everything, all these big numbers are going up. More subscribers, more billions, more all the time. But so is it that the suggestion is there's a sort of, so the markets are, and when we say markets, we're talking about generally not just like you and me investing a bit of money here and there in companies. These are big institutional investors who might be investing $10 billion into a business. They're big investment firms, or they're public pension pots or whatever. And so they're saying, well, we're seeing your growth slow down a bit. And so we're going to pull some of those shares out and put them elsewhere into something else that's growing a bit faster. So what does that mean if we've been riding the streaming train for 20 years now, and the number has gone up rapidly, and now the number of the money that's coming in is still going up, but the speed at which it's going up is slowing down? what does that mean for A, the major labels who are making most of their money that way, and B, Spotify, let's say, because that's the standalone streaming platform of note, where their growth rate is still pretty good. It's like 9% or 7%, depending on which company you're at. But that's coming down from sort of super high levels. What does it mean in terms of what they have to do next?
Hmm. Well, this is the thing because there's two incentives here. One is you want to grow because you want to grow, you want to do better and make more this year than last year. But there's also the need for growth. When you're a public company, you need to grow and you need to be showing growth and
Mm,
proving it's going to carry on. And so there's these two things. One is what do you do to keep growing your business? Well, yeah, what does Spotify do to boost subscriptions further and find new revenue streams? What does Universal do to make more money from streaming and so on? But there's also the how do you communicate to the markets, to investors, to Wall Street, that you believe more growth is coming?
mm,
How can you tell that narrative? How can you say yes? And so, in a lot of ways, this might be AI is a good example at the moment.
mm,
And Spotify had a little AI announcement with it's done a deal with Merlin for its AI remixing and covers tool. And
mm.
this is part of that message, or both sides. It's a way to make more money. You know, fans might pay to remix songs by their favorite artists using AI, or they
Yeah.
might not, as we've talked about
Mm,
before.
mm.
But you then have to also say, look, no, it looks like stream may be slowing down, but there's this new wave of growth coming, and it's all about
Yeah.
AI, and we're really into AI. We're really good at it.
Yeah.
Don't panic. So it's that really. I think it's that sense of you can't just sit on your laurels and be a business that
Yeah.
makes the same amount every year and is about as profitable. You have to grow when you this is the reason. I mean, sometimes there's this cycle where companies that were public go private again. And they
Yeah.
go, "Oh, it's great. We don't have to be on this awful hamster wheel of people expecting us to grow." And then a few years later, they go, "No, we're going public again because you can make loads of money by going
Yeah.
public."
Yeah.
At stonks all round. So it's a weird thing. But yeah, Universal Music is public, Spotify is public, the
Warner.
parent company is Sony. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to a sense, there's always gonna be this. They announce their financials, they seem good, and yet their share price has gone bleh.
Yeah.
Uh,
While Stu was up a hill last week on
mm,
holiday, I had the privilege of covering all this news and also listening into the Spotify. They have a share, what do they call it? Investor call, and it's when they announce their report. And then they talk about it a bit and take questions from journalists. My question was not approved to be answered, by the way. Um,
were you trying to get well, we'll come later on to what were you
Yeah,
trying
I'll
to get
try
them
and
to say a
remember what that
word?
was. But it was the thing that occurred to me was they were very keen to push the narrative you just mentioned, which is, oh, we're going to grow by doing this, and they were really keen to say that their users, the Spotify users, were very enthusiastic about add-ons. So they announced a audiobook add-on, which gives you more audiobooks, so you pay more money to get more audiobook hours per month. They announced an add-on for I think it's called like you get articles from like Rolling Stone and Vogue read to you, I guess, by an AI voice, and that's a sort of another form of podcasting. That's an add-on as well. So it looks like they're saying, well, our natural growth from expanding into new markets is slowing down a bit. So we're going to make more. So there's a sort of two-tier approach, I think, and this was also from some research you did on UMG. They're expecting this growth to continue in two places. One, they will expand into what they're calling emerging markets, so places like India and places in South America, where obviously prices begin lower, but they're going to start getting more people signed up and then increasing the prices there. So more people, more money. And then the other half is by looking at new ways of getting money out of people in established markets, so like the UK and Germany and the US, which are sort of growth is slowing down because pretty much everybody who's signed up to Spotify has signed up to Spotify. So now they're going to convince them, hey, pay us a bit more to get audiobooks and blah, 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 blah. So that's, we will see price increases across the board in the coming years, but definitely look out for, I think, lots of add-ons and extra things to pay for in your streaming app. And around artists from a label perspective in the coming years. Speaking of add-ons and AI, we've spoken ad nauseum about AI on this podcast, but because there's so many interesting and weird things keep happening, there's a lot happening with the sort of AI, generative AI. So this is the company that makes AI music. The one we sort of refer to quite often is Suno, and there's a lot happening. And here's three of them. So let's breeze through these three things. First of all, there was a big legal ruling about Suno in Germany. Stu, what's going on?
Yes, don't switch off.
Yes,
not
we
because
started with stocks and we go straight to legal.
this
Come
is
on,
also a
folks.
story about Boney M's Rasputin and
Mm.
Mambo Number 5,
Yeah, yeah.
which
Which
is
are the
2
two of the
earworms
most
for you.
German-centric songs I can think of, if I'm being honest.
But yeah, this is about German collecting society Gemma, which has won a huge, a really big copyright infringement lawsuit against Suno in Germany in the
Yeah.
regional court. And this has been going on. So Gemma sued Suno. I say Gemma, it's Gemma, isn't it?
It's
Gemma
gamer, yeah.
is a hard key. Um, because they said their legal team basically entered existing song lyrics and style prompts into Suno, and the outputs were so close to the original
Yeah,
songs that they were like, "You have not just learned from these songs, you have copied them, you have taken them in, you've memorized them." And this is
yeah.
memorize sounds like a normal word, but it's actually quite a key legal phrase here. You've memorized these songs and you're outputting them in an infringing way.
And you can go to the website and hear this for yourself, can't you?
They've got a whole page of like, yeah,
Yeah.
these are the prompts we've written, and this is the
Like,
song that
here's
sounded.
the original Mambo Number 5, and here's when we asked Suno to create Mambo Number 5. Here's what it sounds like. It's very,
Yeah.
very similar.
And so it's a big deal. And the judge ruled in Gemma's favor against Suno, which now it faces financial damages. It's got to disclose data to Gemma to
Yeah.
help those damages be calculated. It's got to tell them what it trained on. Um, and a stop and desist order. Although Suno came out with a statement saying we don't agree with this and we are examining all our options, including an
Mm.
appeal, Supreme
Mm.
appeal. But this is like so this is the second case. So Gemma has been quite on top of this. So last year they sued OpenAI
Mm.
um, over ChatGPT replicating lyrics.
Yeah.
Because obviously Gemma Collect Study, it represents publishing and songwriting,
Yeah.
including lyrics. It's not about the recordings, it's about the works, the songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so these two win, and it won that case too. So
Yeah.
these two wins are basically saying in Europe, because obviously Germany part of Europe, so this has ramifications across the continent. If you run a generative AI service of any kind and you haven't got explicit publishing licenses for music, then there are big legal and financial risks for you.
Mm.
And it also, I mean, this is where we get into slightly the weeds, but hopefully I can explain it because it is important.
Mm.
This idea of memorization. So I think what the traditional thing that AI companies often say is, we're not copying anything. We're not memorizing things and just chucking them out. We are listening to music and learning from it like a human would do. We're
Yeah.
learning how music works.
It's vibes,
And
Stu. It's all vibes all the way down
it's
now.
all
That's
vibes.
yeah.
Um, wasn't that a lawsuit as well? That's the Ed Sheeran, Marvin Gaye lawsuit, wasn't it? But this ruling is saying, no, you didn't just learn from these songs. You did memorize them and you outputted them.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of strips away one of these arguments about we are not legal. And it also does this. There's this hard line in Europe now, because in the US, everyone is still arguing about is it fair use to just train your AI
Yeah.
on any music
Yeah.
you want. In Europe, this is kind of saying if you want to operate here, you've got to pay for licenses. In this context, you've got to pay for a collective license from someone like Gemma.
Yeah.
And it kind of raises this prospect. Although this case is now, it could go to appeal and so on. But it does leave a thing of if you're a Suno now, do you say, right, we're going to have to negotiate licensing deals, or we're going to have to geo-block Europe entirely
Yeah.
and not have anyone there use it and just keep out the region until we can get some more clarity?
Now, listen, I don't want to segue from share prices to German legal rulings to European um,
Sorry.
laws, right? So I'll just drop this in and leave it. But on a week ago, there is a European-wide AI law. So this is the EU AI Act. I will leave you at home to do your own research here and dig into it. But basically, one of the tenets of this new law, which is now in force across Europe, is that if you create anything with AI, that can be a chatbot or it can be music, you have to legally, under the order of a judge, reveal what you trained that model on. So a judge under appropriate court case now has the legal power to force AI companies to reveal exactly what data went into their models to train them. So we might actually see a spicy lawsuit coming up any time where people and what people want, what artists and songwriters and everybody seems to want who opposes this is they say, look, just tell us what you trained it on. Just reveal, be honest with us and be transparent. And now under European law, that can be requested and be forced by a judge under the threat of punishment of various types. I'll leave you to research that yourself, folks.
Well,
But then, so what does Sudo do next? They release a long blog post making promises about how much it really supports human artists.
Yeah, well, this also happened last week, which I thought was but it's part of there've been a few things like this in recent months where people a couple of were on LinkedIn people saying, "This is what we're doing, this is why we are responsible." And I think many music industries just go, "There." There's a side of it. I don't even wanna read it, but these are really interesting because 'cause they're important signs of how Suno is shifting. Because this is from the CEO, Mikey Schulman,
Yeah,
who is a man who, when Suno got sued by the major labels, he wrote this blog post that basically the corporate record labels are turning to their old playbook and was very. Whereas now he is very much like, no, we want to be responsible and good partners and an artist friendly creative assistant. So it does show, it
yeah,
shows that change. And you can argue that change has come because of lawsuits. But
yeah,
it's important still. And yeah, I mean, there were two. You can tell me if I'm wrong because obviously you wrote this story, but
yeah.
there were two things, weren't there? One is there's going to be a new download policy that means you can't just like make thousands of tracks and download them all and put them on streaming services.
And upload. So it's
Yeah,
about the pipeline. So yeah, you can only download so many. You can only upload so many to streaming platforms. Yeah,
and they're going to watermark and fingerprint the files to help people identify songs made on Suno, which I think comes at a point when I think it feels to me a bit like it's been presented as being responsible. This is the
yeah,
right thing to do. I
yeah,
feel like it's almost also a bit of a survival tactic
yeah,
because we feel very close to streaming services saying we're not gonna let this stuff on or we're gonna take it.
yeah.
So it feels like this is a way of saying actually, yeah, before you ban Suno made music from your services, we're gonna make it watermarked so you can properly label it,
Yeah.
which is
I
is a
don't
good
want to.
thing, but I
Yeah.
think it is a slightly sort of response ahead of that.
I don't want to drag this back into the realms of the European Court, but one of the tenets of the EU AI Act that's just come in is that all media must be tagged clearly for humans and machines to read. So any AI generated stuff now in Europe must have a metadata tag to say to machines, this is AI generated or contains portions of it, and humans consuming it as well. So I presume it's sort of aligned a bit with that, but it is definitely a defensive thing. And finally, from Suno this week, what could be more human than the warmth and the soundstage that only vinyl can bring you, Stu?
Well, true. And what could be more human than generating a song on Suno and pressing it to vinyl?
Yes, tell us
Which,
about this.
well, this is the same thing. So they opened a wait list. I think they opened a wait list, haven't they, for Suno
Yeah,
vinyl,
yeah,
where you can basically pick up to 46 minutes, is it, of your AI made tracks,
yeah, yeah,
upload your artwork, and have a physical record sent to your front door. So, as far as I know, you're paying $45 to get a record of your own stuff. It's not like a
yeah.
commercial.
No,
You're gonna
it's a one-off.
press,
Yeah,
yeah. Which kind of, I don't know. It just, I feel like, well, stop me if this is a lukewarm take. I feel like the reason vinyl has been on this 20-year revival is because it is about warmth and artist
yeah.
craftsmanship and like slow, intentional listening,
Uh, uh,
and having it, AI generated audio from a text prompt pressed into a physical disc. It feels like it hollows that out for me a bit. I mean, there are people doing stuff on Suno that has a lot of craft in it, and that's that's
that's
that's
no,
not
that's where it gets spicy, I think.
well, but I don't know really. It just seems like it seems off. Um,
For me, this feels like a sort of good birthday gift. You and your friends could make 45 minutes of like
oh, okay, hang
banter-filled
on.
songs about a friend, press it onto vinyl, upload a
Oh,
picture
hang
for the
on.
front cover, and present it to him.
Oh, your vinyl bore friend. You could.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sold on this, and it's a good
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just think of the
$45
think
worth of it.
think about the banter
Yeah.
potential.
I think that the one thing I'll sum it all this up with is I think we are getting, I think, slowly, this is not the vinyl stuff, but we're getting to a place where Suno is doing the things that music industry wants. And whether you think that's happened at kind of essentially legal gunpoint or not, we're getting to the point where it's going to watermark stuff. It's going to have download limits, the things that people
Yeah,
have been pressing it for. And now we just need to settle that idea of, well, should you pay for training?
yeah.
And there is a path for Suno to become a partner of the industry. Whether that solves the kind of the trust gap with artists and music fans remains to be seen there.
It's kind of been a quite like a speed run of that really tedious move fast and break things, tech bro mantra, which is we're gonna come in and shake up the music industry, and people hate making music, and all this, on the labels are the big old dinosaurs kind of thing, and then eventually they will they will they will fall in line and kind of end up being roughly where we expected them to be, and that's actually only taken a couple of years, which is fairly fast,
Mm.
and it goes some lengths to explain how heavily legally regulated the music industry and copyright is, which brings, and you were talking about there about sort of getting onto the pathway towards a future of a reasonable future of AI music. And this next story is one that I've been following for a bit, and I think offers another perspective on. We've been talking there sort of about the legalities, but this is about human acceptance of AI music. And this is a song by, you may not be familiar, folks, with the work of Phoenix Flexin, who's a West Coast American rapper. And his song, Rubbers with a Z. Stu, this is all about, for our American listeners, condoms, right?
Is it about I assume
It's
I
it is
wonder.
not. No, I
Is
can
it
tell you
about
what.
tires on a car?
No, it's
No.
about when you're making a lot of money in a
Yeah.
kind of gangstery way, you have to bundle your money together with rubber bands.
Oh, wow.
That's what it means, yeah. Anyway,
I mean, how would I know this? I've never had more than, 6
I know.
notes at one point when I go on holiday,
Exactly.
together. This is this is where I ask you about this, 'cause
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I understand.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, I knew this was it was kind of a viral TikTok joke,
Yeah.
but then it became an actual chart success,
Yeah.
and there was some talk then about, "Isn't this it sounds a bit AI generated?"
Yeah.
And Phoenix Flexing was like, "No, it's not." But that's where the things have changed in the last week, is that correct?
That's right. So I sort of first became familiar with this story, I think about a month and a half ago, and it was because I saw an interview with Phoenix Flexin, right? Who is this? He's been a rapper as part of a crew originally on the West Coast for some years, right? And he sort of built up a following, and then he went solo, and he's sort of one of these kind of these rappers who is kind of quite a character. He's very colorful. He looks colorful. He's got tattoos everywhere. He's kind of weird, and his music's good, right? And then
Mhm.
what he's done is he's teamed up with this producer whose name I've forgotten, but I,
I got it.
go on,
Perps on
tell
the
us.
beat, isn't
Perps
it?
on the beat.
Perps on the
So
beat with
that's
Z.
right.
I like
So
that.
I knew you would know that. So he teamed up with this producer called Perps on the Beat, and then he started his solo career. Anyway, he he recorded a song which sounded very different to all of his other songs. So all of his other songs are kind of hip hop, and you can sort of anticipate which way that goes. But then he released a song with Perps on the Beat,
Mhm.
which sounds, and the best description I can give you is it sounds like the Smiths crossed with hip hop, crossed with 1980s Human League style synth pop, right?
Mhm.
And it became a viral hit on TikTok because it's really catchy. Like, it doesn't matter if you think it's good or bad. I actually quite like it, but it's very, very catchy. It's
Mhm.
got this weird lyric. It's kind of there's something emotional about it. And he's singing in it in this kind of faux English Morrissey-esque accent, sort of.
Mhm.
So it's a really weird song, but it's got a great chorus, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And it's called Rubbers. And then he's been sort of dogged all the whole time. This has been his biggest hit, right? So it's
Mhm.
the only song he's had that's gone viral. And there's been this sort of accusations that he's actually just taken an AI generated song, sort of re-recorded some of the vocals, and then passed it off as his own work. And people have opinions on that. And then in the last week, another producer, an artist, American artist called Medicine, but spelt a bit differently.
Here he is. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. He put a TikTok post up that got millions of views saying, "Let me blow the lid on this and explain exactly how this is a totally AI generated song." So he goes into sort of detail and says, "Look, I found file endings," and so it's all gone back and forth. And essentially, where we're at now is this.
There was
This
like they posted a Pro Tools thing, is that right? Showing,
yeah,
"No, no,
so
no, it wasn't." And he said, "No, that could be fake too. Everything
exactly.
could be faked." And
So
so
so so Phoenix Flexing and Perps on the Beat. This is yeah, we're getting into real niche hip hop stuff here, Stu, as you would expect from.
perps on the beat sounds like a skill.
Yeah, that's right.
That
That's
guy,
right.
he perps on the beat.
He does, yeah. That's why his songs are so successful. He's really good at that. They released a video of like showing the Pro Tools session where they put the song together. But people then said, "Well, look, we know what you did was you created this song on this platform, you exported all the stems, you've remixed it a bit and added some vocals in, and then you've released it as your own song." Now, the big issue here is, and the interesting part is, this is now going up the Hot 100 in America, in the US charts, right? So it's actually hitting the charts and people like it, and he's playing it live and people like it. It's a hit song. And we might be entering the sort of the point that you and I have talked about a lot, which is what happens when there is a big hit song that is AI generated? What happens when there's a
Mm.
song that is mostly like really like, 80 to
Mhm.
90% AI generated. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. And people love it. And we
Yeah.
might actually be finding that out now. And it's sort of, some people really hate it, and a lot of people don't care, by the looks
Well,
of
I've
it.
got two thoughts on that. So one, I think it's showing, and this other cases too, one in Sweden was a hit as well. People don't necessarily hate AI music if it's catchy. But the question is, do they hate being lied to? What happens when they find out it's not? Is it like almost like a modern Milli Vanilli
Yeah,
moment
exactly. Mm,
where you learn that something isn't what you thought it was, and do you then go off it? But the other thing is, I think it comes down to if there is something that is it and it's a hit, it goes back to, well, what was it made with? This is
mm,
not Cena, it's allegedly this platform called Treblo. Well,
mm,
what was that trained on?
mm.
Was that trained responsibly and ethically or not? And that, I think, maybe will guide people's views, certainly in the industry, on that. Well, should this be allowed in the charts
Yeah,
if it was built? And that's what we talked recently about these new ideas that the labels have of like, actually, if something is trained on unethical AI, it shouldn't be allowed in the charts.
yeah.
But I think that there is this question. We go, well, I wonder if an AI song will ever become a hit.
Mm,
And actually, this isn't even the first one, but it's happening. It's going to happen because
yeah.
you can make catchy stuff. And I think, I don't know, when it get down to dueling Pro Tools videos, um, it's one of those wider things about AI is that AI's problem isn't just that stuff can be fake, but it makes you distrust everything that's real too. Because
Yeah,
everything
right.
that's real, you could say, well, that's how you fake this.
Yeah.
So it's a bit dispiriting from that point of view. But
Yeah. I'll put a link to
yeah.
the song below the podcast. I really like it, actually. But see what you think and see how you feel, more importantly, because
Yeah.
it's a vibes only show today, folks.
Mm.
Let's move on to one final story before we get into any other business. If I imagine that our listenership, Stu, is the kind of people, or are the kind of people who read about music and like to hear what journalists and reviewers think. And this week, there's a sort of sad story that focuses around the very well-known site Brooklyn Vegan, which is an excellent, historically been a really good music review site, but also Alt Press, Goldmine, Revolver. D- What's happened, and what does it mean?
Well, so it's a little bit rumor swirling at the moment,
Oh,
but the reports were that all these four publications. So I think Brooklyn Vegan's a website. All Press was a magazine is a website. I think Goldmine and Revolver are physical magazines mainly still, or they're on
no.
sites too. But yeah, essentially the report was that nearly all of their staff have been laid off. Um,
Uh-uh.
and this came from Pitchfork, which is no stranger to layoffs and mass restructurings because it's had a few of
Yeah,
those itself.
yeah,
Um, and so one, this was a story about, yeah, music media having challenging times, which has been going for a while. Then the other aspect was is people realized that there was the same company owned all these four publications, and that was Veeps, which started as a live streaming music service founded by two members
yeah.
of Good Charlotte, actually, but
Really?
then
Okay.
was majority bought by Live Nation. So this
Right.
story becomes, hang on a minute, many people did. This was not secret. It was on the each one of these websites. Their privacy policy is talk to Live Nation if you've got questions, and Veeps has them. But so these four media have been bought up fairly quietly by this company Veeps, which is part of Live Nation.
Yeah.
And so now people have been having a go at the guys from Good Charlotte and
Of
Live
course,
Nation
yeah.
saying you're killing music media. Um, and that's an interesting story in itself. Um, but really, this is about, I don't know. It feels like a massive and yet not entirely shocking
Mm,
state of where things are with subculture journalism. Because these aren't just like music blogs. They're like really, really foundational pillars, I think, for like particularly
a
alternative
taste
independent
making
music.
and scene making,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
Goldmud's been going since the
publications.
mid-70s,
Yeah.
Revolver's been really important for hard rock and metal. Like, these are really, really important things, and these are trusted. Oh god, I don't want to say this phrase actually. 'Cause I was
Go on.
gonna call them like human curated, like, but I don't think we should be it's weird we have to specify that, humans did
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were the discovery pipeline, like how so many artists got their first review in somewhere like Brooklyn Vegan or Press,
Mm,
which in turn that drove their ticket sales when they were playing grassroots venues. So this layer of the music media kind of being cut, and again, we don't know if they're shutting down yet.
yeah.
It may be that there kind of some kind of restructure going on and so on. But if that layer goes, it's it's a real problem because it could deny some of those artists their
Yeah.
first which in turn fuels the grassroots music scene, which in turn is what spawns the arena headliners that support
Yeah.
Live Nation's business. So I mean, it's not that it's the baddie here shutting down music media because
Well, it is.
the economics of music, but the economics of this are
Yeah.
terrible. Like
Yeah, yeah,
ad
yeah.
revenues have already fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, yeah.
Now search traffic is falling off a cliff thanks to Google.
Well, and also
And
AI, so if you search for something on AI, you don't need to
yeah,
click through to the website. You just
no.
read it all
But
in
you
your
don't
AI
then
bot.
go to Brooklyn Vega and say, "Oh, they've written about this." But so I think this is not about bad Live Nation shutting things down. It's about music media and like how the hell. And I think how do you do this stuff? Because I think the other thing is you might say music and say, "Oh well, who cares about blogs and music reviews and that? We've got influencers on TikTok we can pay to say
Mm,
anything we like, and we can pay
mm,
for social ads, and we can."
mm.
And but I feel like this stuff sometimes it's a bit unethical if you're paying people to say it's great
Of
on
course it
TikTok.
is. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Um, Also, these aren't building long-term loyal fans. They're
Mm,
building like 15-second trends where someone gets paid to say something. And so I think we're losing some really important cultural context here. And I am a journalist, so I feel this, and maybe I'm just too in the weeds of journalism's important and good.
yeah.
But I think when you lose every site list you lose or that gets cut to the bone, we're storing up trouble for
Yeah.
not just little
It's
bands.
it's definitely short-termism versus long-termism, isn't it? And, you are a journalist. I'm a massive cynic. That's my main profession.
A
And I
journalist then.
yes, yes, right. And, I look at this as the sort of the consequence of, major platforms that are tech platforms becoming monopolizing influences in all walks of life. And those tech platforms make all of their money, or the vast majority of their money, through advertising. Therefore, culture and media starts to become advertising as well. And so instead of saying, "Hey, isn't it great having all these people with independent opinions, um, with influence and authority, saying things to people," it's the reflection of of those major businesses and everyone within it and connected to them going, well, that's inconvenient for us because we don't want to have a bad review. We don't want to have someone saying our band is rubbish. So instead, like, it's much easier for us to pay to have someone say that for us, and they've built up the social traction and influence to say it. And the problem with losing publications like this, Brooklyn Vegan, for instance, was, yeah, like you said, it was influential because people would go there for music news, but also guidance and reviews. They used to run events, so you could go to a Brooklyn Vegan event and they would know what you were going to get something in your ballpark. Really, really important structural stuff in the arts community.
Mm.
And if you let these things, it's the parallel is always with football, I find, right? Which is like, okay, it's great to have the teams at the top making zillions of dollars and paying footballers hundreds of thousands of pounds a week or whatever. But if you don't support the bottom of the pyramid, like grassroots venues, something's gonna you've got a long-term problem and you're gonna pay for it in the future. So but the question is, who's gonna pay to run these blogs now when they're not making any money? And it's almost like we have to start shifting across to this, patronage system of, like, passing money down to the small people
Well, here's the
downstairs.
problem though as well, because I think when it was about grassroots venue, you say the music industry should put money into these things.
Yeah,
Come on, everyone. Now, there's an ethical issue in if record labels said we're going to support music journalism sites with some money,
yeah,
then you get into that whole well, hang on, that's that, yeah.
yeah.
So I think I don't know what the answer is, but I know that there is a lot you can discover music in brilliant ways through algorithms and through
Mm.
playlist curators, and a lot of the journalists who work for these outlets in the old days now are working at streaming services doing the same thing,
Well,
identifying
SoundCloud
artists
has
they
just
like.
launched a radio show, haven't they? Which is curated by
Yeah.
their in-house
So
curators,
this is still happening. It's not like
yeah.
curation is dying, but I don't think this is like a horse that outmoded by the car moment. I think these sites are still valuable, and we shouldn't just let them be cut to nothing without fretting.
I just want a faster horse, Stu. Before we move on to the any of the business and finally sections, don't forget, I'm saying this because it's going to connect to something I'm going to talk about shortly. If you are enjoying listening to the price of music, you can support us via Patreon or Patreon. depending on how you want to pronounce it. And you can sign up to become a super fan of the show. It's not very expensive, and it gives us the opportunity to give you 20 to 25 minutes more blah blah every week, where we dig into some of the stories that we've spoken about further, and also some weirder stuff. And last week, or the week before, I don't remember, Stu, I think it was last week, we spoke a lot about Discogs, which is me steering the ship here a little bit, and the price of various records and Discogs. So do check out the paying to be part of the Price of Music community with the link below the podcast. And that leads us to any other business and our listener letter from James the Joiner in Austin, Texas, who emailed us to say, I have, talking of vinyl from the lock-in last week, I have a slightly tragic but mostly funny vinyl mishap to share. Basically, I'll go to the heart of this one immediately. Being a Blur fan, like you, Stu, waited, I don't know how many years, 15 years, 20 years for a new Blur album? It was a long time, right? So, pre-ordered his copy of Blur's The Ballad of Darren, good album, blue vinyl, limited edition, and then received it through the post all the way to Austin, Texas, got it out of the sleeve, and noticed, he sent a photograph here, which I'll put on the Patreon blog. He noticed that, in the middle of the record, right? So you've got the hole where the spindle goes through, and of course you've got a label. And what happens is obviously a machine must pop out a little hole, like a hole punch from the label, so that the spindle can go through. Well, that little circular piece of paper, very unfortunately for him, then sort of must have fallen on the PVC of the record, and then the record was pressed. So the actual circle of paper from the center of the record is pressed slap bang into the middle of the grooves, and whenever he tries to play it, it makes a horrible noise as the needle gets scratched over a piece of embedded paper. Um, do you think, Stu, that this will be worth more on Discogs or less on Discogs? That's the big question.
I
We're
mean,
begging
yeah,
to know.
it depends how many of them happen. If there's like 60,000 of them out there,
Yeah,
then probably not. But if that's like a very quickly caught error and there's only
yeah.
5 of these, then you're sitting on a gold mine,
So I
maybe.
had a quick look on Discogs.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
for this particular record, but to gain access to the hive mind vibes of Discogs. And generally, if you've got a record, I'm afraid to say, James, with a fault, a pressing fault like this, severely impacts the value. It's not as worth as much, I'm afraid.
Really?
Yeah, afraid not. Yeah, it's just seen as
Oh.
like
Is it
a
only errors on
problem.
the packaging then that make it
It's
worth
errors.
more?
So if you've got an error, so if they've pressed a label with a misspelling or wrong
Ah, that's what's
information
valuable.
or something
Right.
like that, so if they've said, or if they've missed off a track on the track listing, then that's more valuable, right?
Mm.
If it's actually made an impact on the record itself and damaged it, you are out of luck, I'm afraid, James. But enjoy it. It's a scarcity, and you got mentioned on
Well,
the podcast.
you can't you can only enjoy it by looking at it, sadly. You
Yeah,
can't
that's
play it.
right. Yes, you can skip. Hopefully, it's landed on one of the tracks that you didn't like. But
Mm.
from looking at this photograph, Stu, you can give me more guidance here. It's at the
Well, the track
end.
listing is there.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's at the end of the song "Barbaric" and the beginning of the song "Russian Strings." How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because it's a lovely album, and
Yeah,
it's an album that needs you need to listen multiple plays, you know,
yeah.
it opens up new layers, so, yeah, it's a sad
A
thing
lot
for
of
that.
richness there. The exact thing
Yeah,
that James can't do. Okay, sorry,
yeah.
James. There you go. That's our expert opinion. Now, let's have a look. Where are we? Oh, let's move on to and finally, um, Stu. You're a big Super Furry Animals fan. We know this. I am as well. But you are the super fan of us amongst us. And we're going to go very niche football league here, and we'll dig
Very
into this
niche.
more, by the way, in the lock-in later. Very deep. But the Welsh Ardell League South East Football
So that's
Club.
the 3rd tier, isn't it, in
It's
Wales?
it's the third league Southeast. Yeah,
Yeah.
football club Cumbran Celtic have some new shirts for sale. But who's on? Who's the sponsor on these shirts, Stu?
Wow. So it's a sponsorship deal, and there's 4 British bands on these shirts, Superfur Animals and Mogwai being the two most familiar, maybe to
Fantastic.
Belarus, and also Panic Shack and Loose Articles.
Big fan of Panic Shack. Good. Okay.
And they've all I mean, the important thing is they've all got good logos,
Yeah.
which is the important part, and there's these 4 shirts, being sold by this club that have basically just been relegated to the 3rd tier of Welsh football, but people from well beyond their kind of stomping ground are going to this site and looking at the shirts and
Now,
buying.
why on earth are Super Furry Animals and Mogwai and Panic Shack and others paying to put their logo on the front of Cumberland Celtics, or Celtic would be far more appropriate, Cumberland Celtics shirt?
Well, this is kind of the one way to look at this. It's about two grassroots industries mutually supporting each other. So in this case, it's about keeping the club alive and supporting its many teams, like not just its senior sides, but its kind of juniors, and it's supporting this club, which is falling on slightly sticky times going down. But I think it's 10% the profit from each shirt goes to the music venue trust to
Oh,
support
that's nice.
grassroots venues
Okay.
too. So it's kind of like these two areas, like grassroots football, grassroots music,
Mm.
both facing challenges of different kinds, but some of the same kinds, saying, okay, it's a shared struggle, but we run on tight budgets and we have passionate community spirit. So let's do something together.
Strong
And
overlap there as well, isn't there? Sort of fashion-wise, like, I think you would you sort of niche football shirts are very fashionable, right? So you've got a niche foot it's a good-looking football shirt, first of all, right? It's a sort of niche football club, so it ticks that little it's very we're getting into vinyl collector sort of territory here. So you've got, like, niche interest, niche football club, nice fashionable shirt, some cool logos on it. They're gonna be selling these to far and beyond the Cumbrian region, right? So people are gonna be buying these from all over the UK. So the club's gonna make a lot more money. The artists get a great story and probably some good merchandise to sell to their fans as well, and 10% goes to Music Venue Trust. I think that those are two very overlapping communities, aren't they? Of people who go to, like, grassroots venues and people who like small team football clubs and support teams like that.
I think so. And like, there are some big things happening in music and football. So for example, you had, the World Cup music was very big at the World Cup. You
Oh,
have
yeah.
like Spotify sponsoring Barcelona and putting Drake on Barcelona shirts.
Yes, and Coldplay,
Um,
don't
and
forget.
Coldplay.
Yeah.
And this is the other end of that spin, saying actually this is
Mm.
a challenging place, but just tight. But there is a crossover. I mean, I remember we did a long time ago now, before your time at Music Ally, we did a report on sports and music, and we had the guy from Cherry Red, the chairman,
Ian McNay.
in Monet, and he gave us how they. I didn't realize this. They'd done a whole bunch of. They sponsor local clubs,
Yeah,
but they also sponsor lower tier leagues in England, like the Combined Counties League and the Middlesex,
lovely.
like local regional leagues. I just remember him saying, like, you could spend a couple of grand to sponsor an entire lower
Mm.
league, and you get your logo in the program, and you get, an artist could spend like a few £100 to sponsor someone's shirt. This is quite an affordable thing to do.
I
It's
like
not
it a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is great, and to I mean, there's the famous example of before Brighton and Hove Albion became a Premiership fixture. Back in the days when they didn't have any money, they were
Oh,
sponsored by Fatboy Slim's label Skint, which was
perfect.
incredibly amusing for everybody to see a football club out of money running around with the logo of Skint on their tops.
Well, I think it's the other thing here is if you're the football team, say you're a local football team, say you get crowds of, I don't know, in the hundreds, and then an artist who plays to thousands every night
Yeah,
puts their name on a shirt. That shirt isn't just gonna be sold at the football club, it's gonna be sold as merch at the concerts.
yeah,
So it's genuinely it's an exciting thing. So yeah, so I think we're gonna see we'd always I mean, even I gotta mention Ipswich now, and I don't like mentioning
go
Ipswich
for it,
Football
Stu.
Club. But Ed Sheeran put his name on their shirts, and
That's
actually that
right.
was like
Yeah,
he genuinely supports them and he wanted to do something,
yeah.
and why wouldn't you spend your money that way if you were a football fan who'd become as big as Ed Sheeran? So there is a real it's not just about corporate partnerships. There's a real, like you say, a real crossover in
It
communities,
it
and
it
so
it definitely is. It's a bit like vinyl. It's a bit like all these things we've spoken about this week, which is a craving for authenticity, which is a kind of horrible word at the moment because it means nothing. But it's that search for human the human element, right? Small local football clubs are about suffering and going along and having a good time and it being on a budget and it being you being really connected to these aren't footballers who turn up in Bentleys, you feel really connected to them and you wear their shirt even though the majority of people around the country don't know what it is. And so there's this real kind of nice community element. It is like grassroots, it is like vinyl, and combining all those things, I
I
think it's a great
really
strategy.
I really want the Super for Anyone's one. It's got big, it's blue and yellow. It's got big
Yeah.
Sweden, vintage Sweden kit,
It's a
football
great
vibe,
shirt.
but with a logo that is kind of like what are those letters you stick on fridges? The kind of alphabet.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So yeah, I would like it's 50 quid, which is on my limit of football shirt acceptability.
Well, that's pretty cheap in football shirt terms these
Yeah.
days. I think having investigated
Yeah.
buying an England
50
shirt and
quid
then
well
quickly
spent,
not
and you're
doing it.
supporting a grassroots club.
Exactly. Yeah, think about it. It's for charities too. You should definitely do it. And so there it is. Well, we'll put a link to that below the podcast. You can check it out for yourself, and if you're feeling generous, buy Stu a shirt. That's it. Not begging.
You
That's it
buy
from
me
us
a
this week.
shirt, Joe. Come on.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Message
Don't
received.
pass the buck.
Thanks for listening, folks. And if you are enjoying listening, we're always really grateful for a like and a follow. It really does help us defeat the tyranny of the algorithm. And do share us onto friends and family and loved ones and bosses and all those kind of things if you think it would be good for them too. And like I said earlier, you could support us via Patreon/Patreon, depending on your pronunciation preference. By signing up to become a superfan, which gives you access to our lock-in shortly, where we will be discussing going very, very deep, Stu, into small Welsh football clubs and potential sponsors from the pop community. And you'll get that every week if you sign up. That's patreon.com/the price of music. And please do get in touch with us about anything at all, especially if you'd like us to dig into a topic that you'd like us to investigate and talk about. Any questions, etc., to the price of music podcast@gmail.com. That's the price of music podcast@gmail.com. Link below the podcast as well. And that's it. Stu, thanks as ever. He's been Stuart Dredge. I've been Joe Sparrow. See you next time, folks.